The fascinating disappearance of the Holy Roman Empire today. We are embarking on a deep and captivating journey through European history to explore a question often overlooked by conventional narratives. Why did no one seriously attempt to restore the Holy Roman Empire? This empire, which lasted for over 1,000 years and played a crucial role in European politics, was officially dissolved in 1806 and was never significantly reconstructed. Unlike other empires that, after collapsing, inspired restoration movements, the Holy Roman Empire never prompted serious efforts to bring it back. So, what led to the disappearance of this medieval colossus? And why didn't its absence ignite a passionate desire for restoration? We will explore a series of political, cultural, ideological, and religious factors that helped shape the fate of this unique empire. We will analyze how historical transformations redefined power in Europe, paving the way for new forms of organization and making the idea of reviving such a complex and decentralized empire practically unfeasible. Furthermore, we will introduce new perspectives to help us better understand the lack of a significant movement to restore this ancient empire. What was the Holy Roman Empire? To understand why the Holy Roman Empire was never revived, we must first understand its unique nature and how it functioned. Unlike modern empires, characterized by centralized governments and powerful leaders, the Holy Roman Empire was essentially a vast confederation made up of a large number of states, duchies, principalities, free cities, and religious territories. These political entities coexisted under the symbolic authority of an emperor, although, in practice, the emperor's power over his vassals was quite limited. Decentralized structure. The paradox of the empire: extreme fragmentation. The Holy Roman Empire consisted of numerous small political units, each with its own government and varying levels of autonomy. There was no central power strong enough to impose uniform governance or effectively control all regions. This fragmentation was both an intrinsic feature and a source of weakness. Local powers surpassing the emperor. Kings, dukes, bishops, and prince-electors wielded substantial local power. These rulers maintained firm control over their territories, while the emperor often had to negotiate with these centers of power, making him more of a mediator than an absolute leader. This resulted in a delicate balance where the emperor's authority depended on agreements and alliances with these various states. Imperial elections and the emperor's dependence. The emperor's title was elective, with prince-electors responsible for choosing him. This placed the emperor in a vulnerable position since his legitimacy depended on alliances and favors. Unlike other European monarchs who held absolute power, the Holy Roman Emperor was always at the mercy of the region's leading nobles. Despite the cultural diversity and administrative flexibility that this fragmentation provided, it also brought about significant instability. The lack of a strong central structure made it difficult to coordinate a unified response to internal and external threats, severely compromising the empire's relevance in an increasingly dynamic European landscape. Section 2. The collapse of the Holy Roman Empire. The collapse of the Holy Roman Empire in 1806, when Francis II abdicated under pressure from Napoleon Bonaparte, was the culmination of a long process of gradual decline that had begun centuries earlier. The dissolution of the empire was not an isolated event, but the result of a combination of internal and external factors that eroded its power base over time. Internal factors: fragmentation and religious conflicts, growing internal divisions. Since the beginning of the Protestant Reformation in 1517, the empire faced deep religious divisions. Many states adopted Protestantism, while others remained loyal to Catholicism, resulting in a religious duality that weakened internal cohesion. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, was the peak of this dispute, devastating large parts of the imperial territory and leaving profound economic and social scars that were never completely healed. Political decentralization and local ambitions. The emperor's authority was constantly challenged by ambitious vassals seeking greater autonomy. Many local rulers, including princes and dukes, behaved as though they were independent, forming alliances with other powers and disregarding the emperor's orders. This behavior hindered the implementation of a unified and effective policy and heightened rivalries among the various territories of the empire. External factors: the rise of new European powers. The emergence of nation-states. Throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, new powers began to emerge in Europe, such as France, Britain, and Prussia. These countries, centralized and with strong governments, contrasted with the decentralized nature of the Holy Roman Empire. These nations were able to mobilize resources more efficiently and establish unified foreign policies, standing out in the European scene and diminishing the Holy Roman Empire's importance. Napoleon Bonaparte and the reconfiguration of Europe. Napoleon played a decisive role in the collapse of the Holy Roman Empire. By creating the Confederation of the Rhine, an alliance of German states under French influence, Napoleon weakened the emperor's authority and solidified the empire's end. Faced with an inescapable situation, Francis II chose to abdicate the imperial title and reconstitute himself as the Emperor of Austria in an attempt to save some political and territorial relevance. The European scene after the Holy Roman Empire. With the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire, Europe underwent a profound political reorganization. The new geopolitical scenario no longer accommodated a vague and diffuse entity like the old empire. The Congress of Vienna, held between 1814 and 1815, played an essential role in redrawing Europe's borders and creating the German Confederation, which consisted of 39 independent states. The Confederation was an attempt to maintain some unity, but ultimately failed to prove a real alternative to the Holy Roman Empire. The rise of nation-states and nationalism. The growth of nationalism. The 19th century saw the rise of nationalism as a political force in Europe. The idea that each nation should have its own state became a powerful tool for forming new political identities. This movement stood in stark contrast to the fragmented nature of the Holy Roman Empire, as people began to seek governments that were more representative of their culture, language, and traditions. The desire for union and centralization. The unification of Germany and Italy are examples of how nationalism inspired movements that aimed to create strong, centralized states. Such unifications sought to establish more efficient administrations and provide a cohesive national identity to regions that had been fragmented for centuries. The Holy Roman Empire, with its complexity and lack of cohesion, was incompatible with these new aspirations for unity and modernity. The German Confederation, a frustrated attempt. The German Confederation, formed after the Congress of Vienna, was an attempt to maintain some cohesion among the German states, but faced numerous challenges. The lack of clear leadership, the growing dominance of Prussia and Austria, and the absence of a common goal made the Confederation unable to fill the void left by the Holy Roman Empire. It was more of a temporary arrangement than a concrete unification effort, mainly serving to maintain the balance of power and prevent French expansionism. Ideological and religious changes. Reformation, Enlightenment, and secularization. Another important factor explaining the lack of attempts to restore the Holy Roman Empire was the shift in ideologies and the impact of religion on politics. The Holy Roman Empire had a deep connection with the Catholic Church, and the emperor was considered a defender of the faith. However, this role was challenged by the religious and intellectual transformations that took place in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries. The Protestant Reformation and the loss of religious unity. Deep religious splits. The Protestant Reformation, led by Martin Luther, deeply divided the Holy Roman Empire. The adoption of Protestantism by many princes weakened central authority and sparked religious conflicts that culminated in the 30 Years' War. This long conflict devastated entire regions of the empire, and after its conclusion, it was evident that the religious unity that once sustained the empire had been irretrievably lost. Questioning imperial authority. The link between the Catholic Church and the emperor was questioned during the Reformation. As princes adopted new religious beliefs, they also sought greater political independence, and the emperor's legitimacy was weakened. The idea of a ruler whose power derived from divine blessing was challenged in an increasingly divided and pluralistic environment. The Enlightenment and the new concept of government. The rise of rationalism and secularization. The Enlightenment, with its ideas of rationalism, freedom, and individual rights, challenged the legitimacy of traditional regimes, including the Holy Roman Empire. The notion that governance should be based on rational principles and secular justice became increasingly widespread, especially in societies emerging from the Dark Ages. The emperor's authority, founded on religious logic, became outdated in the face of these new ideologies. Secularization of politics. With the rise of the secular state, the relationship between church and state weakened. Politics became more about national interests than the defense of a common faith. The rise of secular nation-states was accompanied by the decline of the church's authority over government affairs, contributing to the disappearance of the relevance of an imperial figure linked to the Catholic Church. Economic and social transformations. The Industrial Revolution and the New Europe. The dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire coincided with a period of great economic and social transformations in Europe. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century, radically changed the continent's economy and social structure, creating conditions that made it impossible to restore the old empire. The impact of the Industrial Revolution. Changes in the economic base. The economy of the Holy Roman Empire was predominantly agrarian and based on the feudal system, but the Industrial Revolution completely changed this scenario. The introduction of machines, the growth of cities, and the emergence of a market economy shifted power from feudal lords to industrialists and the urban bourgeoisie. The political fragmentation of the Holy Roman Empire was not well suited to keep up with these rapid changes. Social mobility and a new dominant class. The Industrial Revolution also transformed European society. The rise of the bourgeoisie as the new dominant class challenged traditional power structures. This emerging class demanded governments that could guarantee stability, protect businesses, and provide modern infrastructure. The Holy Roman Empire, with its decentralization and lack of a clear economic policy, was unable to meet these demands. The decline of feudalism and the rise of capitalism. Collapse of the feudal system. The old feudal system, which had been the basis of the Holy Roman Empire's power, collapsed with the growth of industrial capitalism. Fragmentation into small fiefdoms was no longer viable in a world where large-scale production, international trade, and industrial cities emerging were as dominant forces. Economic and political power was shifting to those who controlled capital and production rather than landowners. Demand for infrastructure and centralized administration. Industrialization required infrastructure, such as roads, railways, and communication systems, as well as efficient administration to regulate production and trade. A fragmented empire, where each small state had its own laws and regulations, simply could not keep up with the needs of the new industrial age. The rise of modern Germany and the end of any dream of restoration, one of the main factors that definitively buried any possibility of restoring the Holy Roman Empire, was the unification of Germany under Prussian leadership. The creation of a unified, centralized, and powerful German nation-state represented everything the Holy Roman Empire failed to achieve. Otto von Bismarck and German unification. Bismarck and the New Germany. Otto von Bismarck, the Prussian chancellor, was the central figure in German unification. Using a combination of diplomacy and military force, he managed to unite the German states under Prussian leadership. Victory in the Franco-Prussian War and the subsequent proclamation of the German Empire in 1871 marked the birth of a modern and unified Germany, which stood in stark contrast to the decentralization of the Holy Roman Empire. The German Empire as a symbol of efficiency. The new German Empire represented an industrialized, militarily powerful, and administratively efficient nation. This new Germany was centralized and capable of asserting itself in the European and global arena, something the Holy Roman Empire never achieved. The creation of the German Empire made it clear that the fragmented model of the Holy Roman Empire no longer had a place in contemporary Europe. Comparisons with other empires. Lessons from the past. The fall of the Holy Roman Empire can be compared to the disintegration of other historical empires. Just as the Byzantine Empire, which fell to the Ottomans in 1453, and the Ottoman Empire, which was dissolved after World War I, the Holy Roman Empire reached a point where its restoration was no longer feasible due to profound political and social changes around it. The fate of great empires. The Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire, like the Holy Roman Empire, was closely tied to religion and the concept of a Christian empire. Its fall marked the end of an era, and changing historical circumstances made any attempt at restoration impossible. The medieval world had come to an end, and the political context no longer allowed for the existence of an Eastern Christian empire, the Ottoman Empire, and the end of traditional empires. Similarly, the Ottoman Empire disintegrated amid rising nationalism and intervention by European powers. The creation of modern nation-states in the Middle East after World War I represented a new world order in which large, multicultural, and decentralized empires no longer had a place. The trend was toward the formation of homogeneous states with defined borders and a clear national